Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video all about French. And for this video I have a guest, my mom, Michelle.
Hi.
Who'll be joining us. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name's Nicole. I'm a homeschooling mom with 2 kids at home. I have a daughter who's 10 and in 5th grade, and my son is 4 doing a little bit of preschool. If you've been around my channel, you probably heard me mention that my mom does teach my daughter French, which she's been teaching her French since we started homeschooling at the beginning of 4th grade. So now we're coming on, almost 2 full years? And we thought it would be time to do a video talking about, first of all, the background and why my mom is teaching French and why I'm not. And also the curriculum that my mom has used, as well as her philosophy on how she teaches French. All right, let's start with the background. Mom, can you give me your background on French and languages in general?
Okay, I started taking French in 7th grade when I was 12 years old. Then I added German in 10th grade, and I had it for 4 years. And then I started Spanish my senior year of high school. And then I had the opportunity to go on what they called 4th quarter abroad. My entire 4th quarter of my senior year, when I was 18 years old, we went to France. I lived with a French family, and I went to a private French school. There was 5 girls total that went with me, that we went together. They all had different levels of French, and let me tell you, the more French you knew, the more successful your trip was.
And what did you go to college for, Mom?
I wanted to be a French high school teacher because I love languages so much, and I wanted to teach French.
And did you ever end up being a high school teacher?
No, I ended up marrying a native French speaker from Switzerland. We had 6 kids, and so I never got to be a French teacher. But I did learn there's a lot of challenges to teaching a language in a country where they predominantly speak English. First of all, no one around us spoke French at all. My husband's family only spoke French, but they lived 10,000 miles away, and they only visited every 2 or 3 years. So the kids didn't need to know, in order to speak to them for a week at a time, every couple of years. Plus, none of their friends spoke French. At school, none of the kids spoke French. And so they did not want to be different. They didn't want to be that kid that spoke a funny language at home.
No, because when I went to school, I remember some of the words I knew in French and some I knew in English. And I remember my teacher was really struggling with me and getting frustrated with me, and I just didn't like feeling different. I strongly remember that.
Yeah. And another problem, they say that children tend to speak the language of the mother because she spends the most time with them. So I tried every way I could, but having so many little children, I spent my days changing diapers, making food, entertaining children. And it was really hard to think and speak in another language that wasn't my own. So they mostly learned English from me. I did make a lot of concerted efforts to try and teach them French. There's one story I have of Nicole when she was shopping with me. She must have been about 4 years old. And for some reason that day, she was sitting inside the shopping cart. And I was practicing my French as we were going down the aisles. And finally, she stood up in the cart and looked at me and put her hands on her hips and said, "Stop talking to me funny like that, Mom." So from then on, it was a struggle to try and teach her. I did have labels all over the house, on the fridge, on the couch, on the walls.
Always.
And but it was really hard because they didn't know sentences. And so just having vocabulary really didn't help them learn French. And a third thing, my husband, he had taken 12 years of German, 8 years of English, and 3 years of Russian. And, he's native French, so his whole lifetime of French.
He also has a master's in English, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And so he's a linguist, so he very much wanted his children to speak French. However, he worked full-time and went to school full-time, so he was never home. So it was me at home. So I think what he tried to do instead to make up for the fact that he was gone all the time was there was about a 10-year period where he would only speak French to the kids. And this got them so frustrated because they knew he spoke English, but he would not say a word of English to them. And if they didn't understand something, he would just explain it a different way in French. So that was a no-go for kids learning French.
I feel like that created a mental mind block for me and has really created a lot of struggles for me as a person being raised. They both spoke it fluently in the home, so it wasn't as if I wasn't being taught it. My dad made us read the scriptures, Bibles in French, so I could read, I could write, I did hear it, but it was definitely a struggle to learn mentally. I think just the way that French is presented to you.
So how did you learn the little French that you did?
Well, I did 2 years in junior high in Utah, and then when we moved to the Seattle area, they didn't offer French at that high school, so they allowed me to use my junior high credits for my high school French because my parents didn't want me to take another language and mess with the very little bit of French I did have. And then I did 2 years in college and, a whole bunch of Duolingo. And I would say, what would you say my French level is, Mom?
I would consider you probably first year French.
And that is why she is teaching my daughter and not myself.
As far as speaking French goes, there's one cold hard truth I have to tell you. If you don't use it, you will lose it. I began learning French 50 years ago, and I studied in school for 7 years. I've been to France. I've been married to a native French speaker for 43 years, and I've been to Europe many times where I was required to speak French the whole trip.
And translate for everybody that couldn't speak French.
Exactly. There were many times where I considered myself fluent in French, but I can be really lazy and get caught up in the busyness of life, and I don't practice French all the time. I could have spoken for 43 years to my husband, but I didn't. I had kids, I had distractions, and so there's many times where he'll ask me a question in French and I'll answer in English because it's just too much work to think of the answer. I studied German for 4 years. I can't speak it today. My husband learned German for 12 years, and he has to constantly work and practice to be able to speak to our Swiss German son-in-law. His Russian is gone, and if he didn't live in the United States for the last 44 years, he would have lost his English. As it is, when he goes home to Switzerland, his family tells him he speaks French with an American accent. So if a native speaker and a lifelong, once considered fluent speaker have a hard time keeping a language, that's got to tell you how difficult it is for someone who just learns it in school to be able to maintain that speaking ability for life. So with all of this in mind, I've developed a plan over the last 2 years of how hopefully I'll be able to teach all of my grandkids French in a way that they can maintain the skill for life.
All right, Mom, so why don't you show us how you teach Emma French?
All right, I believe that there's 3 basic pillars to speaking a language. And the first is, and you'll notice that all 3 pillars are at the same height. They're all of equal importance, one without the other, and you don't have a full language experience. So number 1 is vocab. If you don't have the words, you can't say anything. Number 2 is grammar. If you don't know how to make a sentence, again, you can't say anything. And number 3 is speaking. If you don't have practice speaking, again, you can't say anything. Okay, let's give some examples. This is how I teach vocabulary. I use what's called a thematic learning. So I teach that vocabulary phrases through different themes. And the way I teach it is I use flashcards, worksheets, memory games, board games, crossword puzzles, books, skits, presentations, and lots of tests.
Do you have examples of these?
I do. I will show some examples when I go into what I taught each grade. Okay. So for 4th grade, I taught the basics. Greetings, numbers, colors, shapes, body, food, animals, calendar, weather, hobbies, and family. Now, I didn't have any kind of curriculum whatsoever, but I did hear about these language together books. And so I got set number 1. It's like $25 for this box. And it comes with a set of 10 books. And There's no order necessary. It does on the back of the book have an order that you could tell them in if you teach them in if you wanted to. Okay, so in the book, it will show you the vocabulary and the English translation. And it will give you other words that are in the book and the translation for that. So this one was about colors, obviously. So the book has very easy words that you repeat simple phrases so that they can learn the vocabulary without being hindered by the phrase that's in there. Like, I see the red, je vois le rouge, and je vois le jaune, I see the yellow. And then in the very back, they give you a QR code that you can scan and it'll go to the translation. So if you don't speak French, then it will show you it will give you the translation that you can listen to.
Is that a native French speaker translating?
Yes, it is. Now they have these books in 4 different languages. Let's see, they've got French, Spanish. I know they have Chinese because my husband got the Chinese set. And one other language I don't remember, sorry. Back when I started using it, there's no worksheets. There was no flashcards. There was nothing to go along with it. However, now they've come up with flashcards. So this has 100 flashcards, and this goes for the 10 different vocabulary words from each book. So these would have been great to have. I made up my own, like these. These are 2 different sets. This is food, and this is clothing. And then I also made up lots of worksheets, and I may, on Teachers Pay Teachers this summer when I get some free time, I may put together worksheets that would go along with each book in this. And I've since purchased set 2 and 3. So that's all they have available for French. And then my granddaughter loves games. Anything you can turn into a game. And I'm sorry, this is going to glare. I'll try to make it now. See, I made up games, and this is the clothing, body parts, and yeah, this one's clothing and body parts. This one is shapes and fruit or food and animals. Sorry. And this is numbers and colors. And so I just, I had a little template that I made up, and these were easy to make, and she loved them. So for 4th grade, when I would gather together different units, I would just teach with the loose papers. Then at the end of the year, I combined everything into a book of everything she had studied that year, because she loves to go back and look at her books and so forth. So we got a binder, and I bound the books. We did lots of worksheets and crossword puzzles. Here's one on activities that she did. And then she loves to draw. So and I tailored the worksheets to my granddaughter because I know what she likes. I know her style of learning. And then she drew her favorite things to do. I had never learned a language in elementary school. That was a completely different thing. It's a different way of teaching. You can't go as fast. You can't have as much reading. And so I tailored it to lots of pictures, lots of colors, very simple, not as many questions on a page as a 7th or 8th grader would have. So when we studied the months of the year, she, very easy, big writing, lots of pictures. I bought lots of clip art so that she could see lots of pictures. Her favorite theme was weather. She loves tornadoes, thunder, lightning, the more extreme the storm, the more she likes it. So she really enjoyed doing this. So in the weather thing, I made a game for her, another game. And when she landed on, you can hold that. When she landed on this square, we would have these cards, and on the back is tornado, and she would have to say that in French, la tornade. She loves going back to the start and all these move back 4 spaces. We can't just have a simple game. We have to have a challenge here. And so we played lots of games. And then I made this little book for her, Quel temps fait-il? What is the weather? And she reads this all the time, so she knows. I mean, il y a des nuages. It is cloudy. Il fait beau. So she reads this to me, and we practice on the pronunciation and her accent. Il y a une tempête, one of her favorites, besides the tournade. So that's the thematic learning to teach vocabulary. Then we had the grammar part, where I taught her the 4 basic French verbs: be, go, do, and have. And I had never taught verbs to any child before, so it was a challenge for me. I learned how to make worksheets and how to get her to understand the concept of conjugating a verb in another language. First of all, nobody knows what conjugating means in English, so that was our verb study. And what I did for 4th grade, which she loves this book because she loves to go back and look at her books, I made her a dictionary of all the words she knows, and she'll go back and she'll still refer to this. Here's one on snacks. Where's her weather? Yes. And then on weather, which she loves. So it has all the words that we learned during 4th grade, and she still refers to this today.
So as you can tell, my mom has made a lot of the curriculum for my daughter. So I suggested that she should open a TPT or an Etsy page or both and put this up here for people who couldn't find it. So I think you mentioned before you're going to start trying to get that up together for this summer. Yeah, because she is amazing at the stuff she creates. It's just insane. All of that she almost did on her own, and she didn't even show you a piece of it. But before I forget, if you do want her to go through more of a flip through of all the curriculum that she used for 4th and what she's going to talk about for 5th, she will do that if you want.
Yeah. Okay, so for 5th grade, I found that she didn't really remember anything from 4th grade, which was really discouraging. She's really struggled with the verbs, the vocabulary. That's the reason I made the dictionary for her, because she kept forgetting the vocabulary.
And do you think that maybe part of the reason is because we paused for the summer?
I don't know. I think she just, I don't know. She was only 3rd, 4th grade. She wasn't getting the concept, and there was a lot to take in. So what we did in 5th grade is I reviewed and then expanded. Like numbers, we spent a long time on numbers, and I taught her how to tell the time. Now in Europe, they use the 24-hour clock. So she had to learn the 12-hour clock, AM, PM, how to say that in French, and then 24-hour clock, because they have train tables and airplane tables and all kinds of charts for their transportation that they need to have a 24-hour clock. And so I had so many different kinds of, this is a match game where you turn over, here's the time and here's it written in French. And I made sure she knew how to write all the numbers from 0 to 100 in French, the long writing out way. And so this is a matching game, turn over the matches. And then here's little puzzles that she'd have to put together. Again, the time and in French, the written out. For numbers, we practice extensively numbers, so many worksheets. And then these little puzzle games of the number and how to spell it. Like I said, we spent a lot of time on numbers, but she is really good at it now. She can remember how to spell them. Oh, and then I did this fish game, Go Fish. So there's 4 of each one, and we played this so many times. She loves her games. So in colors, you have to make an agreement in French with the gender and the number of the article. Like chaussure is French, and it's plural. Les chaussures, because you have more than one. And so you have to, like if you have blue shoes, you have to to the color bleu, you have to add an E to make it feminine, and then an S to make it plural. So les chaussures bleues with the ES. So we had to learn all the agreements on the different colors, and then you get into different shades, turquoise, chartreuse, lime green. These colors, for some reason, don't need an agreement. So we had to learn those too. And then for our vocabulary, we started with the unit family. And this one starts with, and we reviewed it because she had it last year, but we went into more. Grandparents, parents, children, grandchildren, nephew, niece, husband, wife, words that she hadn't learned before. So now there is an excellent curriculum that I have found. And he is the best, I think, of all the French curriculums on Teachers Pay Teachers. This guy is a middle school French, Spanish, and Italian teacher in New Jersey. So it's United States, so they don't have all these words from Canada that are not in traditional French. Just like we say trunk of a car, and in England they say boot, or a truck is a lorry. And so they have the same kind of differences in Canadian. And my husband will be the first one to point out, we do not say marron like that, you know. No, it's this word instead. We say brun instead of marron. Anyway, so this guy is from the United States. He teaches in the United States. And he goes by World Language Resources. And like I said, he has them in French, Spanish, and Italian. He does the most extensive work that I've seen. He'll take the themes and he includes the grammar and chances to speak and listen and present in his whole units. And that's where I got a lot of this family unit that I do. And in this one, they also teach I'll get into that in the next section. But there's lots and lots of worksheets. She's given a list of things like François est le père de Nicolas. So François is the father of Nicolas. And so she had to take all these pictures with these 15 instructions and put together a family tree. Because François is the père of Nicolas. And so one by one, she'd get clues as to where everybody went. And then at the end of this, it was amazing. She did a whole verbal presentation to us that, and I'm not going to show you the big poster board that she made because it has individual pictures on it. And Nicole didn't want everyone to see.
It's a privacy thing.
Yeah. So this is just a little one that I made for her. This is me, and this is Nicole. And anyhow, so this is a picture example of what she had to do. She had to make a chart, and this doesn't include her husband's side of the family, but she chose to do that also. So she made up a big chart, and she had to label the relationship of each person to her. This is me right there. Ma grand-mère. And this is moi. And this is, where's Nicole? Over here. This is moi. And this is ma mère. And mon père. Mon frère. And she had to do that on her chart. And then she wrote out 2 pages of a presentation that she had to read to us. I mean, she wrote this herself. And in it, she had to give the person's name, their relationship to her, how old they were, and where they lived. And I counted, I think there was 30 people in her chart. So it was a lot of people.
It took her about 10 minutes.
Yeah, but she did an amazing job. I was so surprised with being so frustrated at the end of 4th grade to feel like she didn't know anything. She really had learned to speak. And I think it's because I really emphasized this time the speaking, which is something I didn't really do in 4th grade. And then some other notable resources on Teachers Pay Teacher are these 3 people. One Teacher's Adventures, La Classe de Madame Anne, and Madame R's French resources. So there's some good ones. Some of them, she tends to be a little bit more advanced than the elementary school. So they're a little bit more difficult, but there's a lot of worksheets that I pick and choose from these groups. And there's others that you can find. Okay, the second section is grammar, the second pillar. This is where we learn the basics. Verbs, parts of speech, which include nouns, pronouns, possessive pronouns, gender and number agreements, etc. Question words, sentence writing, and translations. What we will do is on a worksheet for translation, I will have her translate what the sentence says into English or from English into French so that she's really good at translating now. So for this area in 4th grade, we went over pronouns, he, she, them, their, verbs, be, have, do, go, and negatives, how to make a negative sentence. I want to go, I don't want to go. We just did the very basics for 4th grade. 5th grade, we again reviewed and expanded. We went over the 4 basic verbs again. I thought we were going to go into a whole lot more verbs. Well, didn't happen, but she's beginning to know them better now. I made her make sentences. I took the vocabulary, words that she knew, and I took the 4 basic verbs that we had learned, and I had her make sentence and sentence. Every page was sentences. And she still struggles, but she's getting better. Have and be, she struggles with, she confuses them. So we have things up on the wall, you know, conjugating all 4 verbs that she can use as a cheat sheets. I have stuff all over as cheat sheets. Making questions. We have this book that I made, How to Make a Question in French. And this is learning the question words, who, what, where, when, how, why. So we studied when and where. There's some examples, and I gave her questions afterwards, and there's a review of both of them, and then we would study 2 more, and then review it, and she struggles with this too, and we have a cheat sheet for this too. She likes to do the crossword puzzles in here. In 5th grade, I learned to make 3 different books. So we have our vocab, this is our verb book, and I add other stuff as we finish this. Then we go into prepositions, under, above, below, you know, all those words. Okay, for the last and one of the most important pillars, I think, that gets forgotten so much is speaking. And that includes listening and reading. Every day we have questions. I have a big calendar up on the wall, and I ask her, quelle est la date aujourd'hui? What's the date today? And she has to tell me in French, and I've marked it 1, 2, 3, 4. You start with the day of the week, the number of the date, then the month, and then the year. And every day we repeat that. And then these, I hope they don't have glare. I've laminated them. I ask her about the weather. Quel temps fait-il? And she answers me according to the weather of the day. Comment ça va? How are you doing? And she'll answer how she's doing. And then she says, and you? And so I have to answer. And we have little dialogues that we do, you know. Hello, my name is, how old are you? Goodbye. The more I can get her speaking, the better. So even on her worksheets, I will have her read the question aloud in French, and then I will have her read her answer in French, because the more I can get her talking, the better it's going to be for her. So for 4th grade, we started with the book set that I showed you. The greetings, calendar, weather, hobbies, family. In 4th grade, we didn't speak as much as I pushed it in 5th grade, but we did get some of the basics in. So for 5th grade, this is the year that I started asking the daily questions. Then I started, you want to hold this up for me? Thank you. And then I came up with these little readers, and here's a couple of good resources from Teachers Pay Teachers that provide reader books. And this is what I call a reader. It's a little book. it repeats the phrases and the vocabulary over and over again. And so she practiced reading one of these every single day. Just like the little Quel temps fait-il book that I showed you. Right now, this is our speaking notebook of the moment. Sorry, it's probably glare. The theme is winter. And I have these little, get the glare off here, little books every day. Les vêtements d'hiver, the winter clothing. Je porte un chandail, I wear a sweater. And she goes through everything she wears. Je porte une tuque, and so forth. Every day she reads something. And then in her book, I've got also, she has to read these questions. And this may not sound like much, but for her, it's new this year. It's a stretch. So she's got to read the paragraph and she's got to answer the questions, all in French. And these are primary readers for like first and second graders. But I don't care. It's simple. It's about the reading level she's at. She doesn't mind the pictures. Like I said, the more you can get them reading, the better. Okay, and then we're on board games. We already talked about that. Like when she lands on a spot, she has to say the weather. Whatever the picture is, she has to say it, or she has to go back to the previous spot. Sentence translations, I talked about that. Constantly translating, getting her to think about what she's writing. Presentations, talked about the one we gave. Worksheets. Dictation, where I will give her a sentence and she has to write it in French, what she hears. And listening is a very different skill than reading or speaking, because there's many different ways to spell a word that sounds the same. Skits we do. Videos, I'll have her watch some of the videos in French on the TV. Now I have to give one last caution about this. When I was learning French, and when I would speak to people, French speakers, on the phone, I had a real difficult time understanding what they were saying. My husband, the linguist, explained why. Is over the phone lines or any kind of technology, whether it's on the TV, your phone, laptop, whatever, the sounds don't come through completely. It drops vowels and it drops some of the consonants. So you're not hearing the complete word. And if you know the language, your mind will make up for you, fill in the blank, what it's missing. So learning a language through videos, and that includes like Duolingo or any of those online programs, it's a good refresher. It's not a good way to learn the language, because in person, she'll hear me say the complete sound, but she's not going to get that complete sound on a video unless she already knows those words. So, and read aloud books. I'll have because I want her to hear lots of different languages, lots of different speakers, so different accents. So I'll have my husband read to her books, even if she doesn't understand the words. To hear it repeated over and over again is really good. The daughter that lives with me and another son, they both speak French, and so they will speak to her in French, and so she gets not just grandma's French, but she'll hear other people speaking it. Okay, I think that's all I've got right now, but those 3 pillars are so important, and that's what I believe is really making a difference in her French this year. I think that's what's taken her to the next level.
Yep, and she's doing really well. Thanks, Mom. If there's any questions you have for my mom, just let us know in the comments. She would be happy to let you know, and I will let you know once she's got her Teacher Pay Teachers and Etsy up so that you guys can get some of this stuff if you need. She is a great resource, and it's been invaluable. So I really appreciate the fact that she's teaching Emma and I'm not. All right, guys, we'll see you in my next video. Bye.
Bye.